Yo, what is up, 5-9 gamers? Welcome back. It is that time once again on a Saturday. We are back for another episode of the Dokkan Battle podcast. And it is a very special episode this week. You could say it's almost as special as an anniversary episode because this is episode 5-9 itself. That's right, episode 59 of the podcast titled Son of a Glitch, because as I'm sure you can tell, people are already talking about it in the chat, there's one particularly big topic that we are going to get into on today's episode. But since today's episode is a special one, we are going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be going over a little bit of the history of the podcast. We have some special messages from some of the members of 5-9, and we took in a bunch of extra questions from you guys compared to what we do on a regular episode. So definitely going to be an interesting one for this evening. So to start us off, we have a special message from one of the members of Supercore who could not be here tonight, and that is our very own Sunblade.
Hello everyone and welcome back to 5-9 Gaming, your source news and updates for everything gaming related. My name is Sunblade and today I welcome you to the 59th episode of our Dokkan Battle podcast. Man, 59 episodes, that's quite a lot, and as a matter of fact, I was the MC for the very first one. So yeah, I'm very grateful, very excited for your support, and yeah, we had some great moments, some great guests. Like one moment that I cherish pretty much is the banter between Truth and Talon in the past. One example that comes to mind is the discussion about the 120% leads that got an easy A, and Talon was like, yeah, Super 17 is the best easy A, and Truth was like, no, STR Janemba is better, and he laughed, and it was great. It was amazing. Yeah, about our guests, we had people like Nanogenics, Havohai, Osaru from Germany. Man, the podcast has developed so much. Yeah, very grateful again for your support. And yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it today, but I hope that you enjoy today's episode. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys soon.
Okay, well, there you go. Thanks a lot to Sunblade for that special message. Like I say, unfortunately, could not be here this evening, but we definitely appreciate having him at least take part in some way or another. So somebody else who was in a very similar position but wanted to give you guys a special message for this special episode was the guy himself, the whale. You guys know him. Here he is, a special message from our own Nolar.
Hey guys, Nolar here. Sorry I couldn't be here for the 59th podcast. Very much, reminiscence of our 5-9 name itself. It's a very special time for us just to look back and see how far we've come. I came up with Talon back in, I think, October of 2019. Asked him about doing a podcast about playing Dokkan. I wasn't even a content creator. I was just a fan of the game, a fan of all the content creators at the time, who are still around for the most part. But yeah, I just said, it would be cool just to sit down and talk about the game. And that's when we fired it up. I think the first week of November. I can't remember when the date is. You could look it up on Talon's channel. Yeah. Well, his old defunct now Dokkan channel. But yeah, we started that podcast back then, and it just slowly grew and morphed into, a recorded podcast, to a live stream, into just Dokkan, then Dokkan and Legends. And then it became a consistent thing of UTTP, the Ultimate Tag Team Podcast, of 4 hours every Saturday night, at least here in the North America. And it was pretty cool, man. I unfortunately work these days and won't let me be around for the time that we've agreed upon. And some content creators have come and gone. But the community is still strong, and I'm glad we even have the community, right? The fact that we made 5-9, and here we are on the 59th episode so far, is a testament that, we've been going at it hard, but that's because of you guys, the community, for showing up and, making this thing. So I don't want to take this too long, but thanks a lot for being here. Sorry I couldn't be there myself, but I just wanted to record a message to say something at least. So thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Well, there you go. That was a special message from the boss man himself. We appreciate that from him, being that he couldn't be here. So obviously nice to have him part of this very special episode. So he alluded to it a little bit there. I was going to go through a little bit of the history of the podcast because we wind the clocks back a little over 2 years, back to 2019. And back then, there was the birth of the podcast known as the Ultimate Tag Team Podcast. So Nolar mentioned him and Talon. Also, our own Goresh was involved, as well as a name that some of you will remember from the good old Speedy Luck memes, our boy Speedy, who, as far as I know, is still on the Grand Cross side of YouTube's at the moment, but he was involved right in the beginning as well. And Goresh, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the podcast was like back then, how you guys did it, where it could be found, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the way that we started was we sort of did the Dokkan stuff, and that was before Legends was even like a thing to be covered, and that was on YouTube specifically. And the way we did it is we rotated channels, so each person that was part of it would like host it on their own channel, and then we would like rotate it per week depending on whose turn it was. And then we eventually got into Legends, and we combined them into the same podcast. So we sort of like did like one half of Dokkan, one half of Legends, and those podcasts used to go for like 2.5+ hours. And so you had to really block out like your entire Saturday to sit down and record these podcasts or whatever. I don't even remember if it was always on Saturday, but whatever day it was, you had to really have like no plans that day because you had to have like 3 hours of free time to sit down and record this thing. And it wasn't live at the time. It was all pre-recorded until we got into the later portions. Because I think once we started getting into the later episodes, then we started doing it live, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. Because this is episode 59, but this is not episode 59 of the total podcast, because this is episode 59 of the 5-9 podcast. We had the original podcast had its own episodes before we even started. So this is really episode, like, I would probably guess like 80 or so. Of how many podcasts we've done. So it's been a long road. I think the structure, when you compare this one now to the one we started, it's way better. It's more organized. It's just the production quality is way higher now. So hope you guys agree with that. But yeah, we've definitely come a long way. And I think the podcast has been a staple of who we are for a while. So.
So yeah, as Goresh was saying, it used to cover both Legends and Dokkan. And then, of course, last year, we recently celebrated our 1-year anniversary for 5-9 Gaming. So 5-9 Gaming became a thing, and obviously the podcast changed quite considerably. I was very lucky. It was a great time for me. Just before the Ultimate Tag Team podcast officially ended was when they decided to reach out to a couple of new creators to join. And that was when people like myself and Sunblade came onto the scene. And then obviously right after that, literally, I think it was only a couple of weeks. I think I might have only literally been on maybe 3 or 4 episodes. And then 5-9 was born. And then the first episode of the 5-9 podcast was on the 27th of September in 2020. So Sunblade was the MC for that first episode. He mentioned that in his clip that we showed earlier. And then we had Toon Rami take over as the host from episode 2. And he was the host for quite some time. Finally changing over to myself at episode 38. So I had to go back and check which episode it was. And I didn't realize it had been that long. So I've been doing this now for over 20 episodes. I hope I'm doing a decent job. I definitely was very nervous when I originally took over, but it has been a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Obviously, we have many more to come. The Dokkan podcast will continue on for hopefully the foreseeable future. Hey, as long as there's a Dokkan, as far as I'm aware, there'll be a Dokkan podcast. So it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, there's a lot more fun to come. So as Goresh said, hopefully you guys enjoy, and we always appreciate your feedback for how we can make it even better. So with that, we are going to jump into the one major topic for this week that some of you may be aware of. DaTruth, I'm going to pass it over to you. Since you haven't gotten to say anything yet. So, yeah, something's going on in Dokkan at the moment. What is it exactly?
So there is a big-time glitcherooski, which basically allows you to have infinite attack and defense. That's, I guess, the easiest way to explain it, right? Just infinity. You're God mode. It's just God mode, right?
So yeah, people have been going wild over this on the timeline. It's pretty much the only thing I've seen people posting about today. So Minato, I know you did a video on it as well. I don't know if we want to go into specifics of how exactly you do it, but what is some of the stuff that you've been seeing going on in the community as of today?
I mean, I've just been seeing people beat events that they couldn't beat. I've been seeing some people get scared over it. I've seen people literally get attack stats that are so high the game can't like register it, so it shows as 0 because the stats are so high. The game at a certain point doesn't really actually show the attack stat numbers on there. It's been pretty crazy. There's been a lot of memes about it, like with Blue Cow Can Goku, a lot of airplane mode type of memes thing going on there. It's been a very eventful day. I feel like it's been already out for about like almost a day at this point. I feel like, and no signs of any fix or anything like that.
So this is something I saw some people saying that this isn't actually anything new, and it's just kind of something that only now people have actually started to notice and really talk about. Now that it's becoming such a big like public issue, everybody's talking about it. Do you think we will see a fix to this quickly, or is this going to be around for quite a while, do we think? Goresh, what do you think?
I don't think this is a big issue at all. I think the game as it is right now doesn't really matter if you're able to beat events or not. That's not the point of the game. The point of the game is to summon and collect your characters, right? I'm not like for you have to understand their player base that they're catering towards are people that already have the units that they want to beat events with, right? The player who's spending money on the game and summoning for every new unit is not struggling to beat the Legendary Vegeta event, right? I mean, you're pulling because you want the character for your collection. You're not pulling because you need the character to beat an event. So because this is a glitch that actually affects the gameplay and not like stones or whatever, it means this is very, very like a non-issue for them. But I mean, they're probably going to fix it. It's just I don't think it's at the top of their priority list.
Yeah.
Something I would add.
This is people are way overblowing this out of proportion. It's not even like I wouldn't even consider this glitch to be like that bad at all.
Something I would add is that if they had an issue with stuff like that, then they would have like already fixed like or banned stuff about mods going on with actual like God mode mods and stuff that happened in the past. It's kind of clear to me that they wouldn't necessarily care for it as much. So yeah, that's my opinion, anyways.
Yeah, because like we've said in the past with things like mods and even just down to things like power creep, and when we've talked about units and how their kits have been designed and how they could have been designed, the thing that I've seen a lot of people saying is obviously it is a PvE game. So obviously if it was a PvP game like Legends and there was a glitch that was allowing you to like triple, quadruple your attack power and stuff like that, then obviously that would be something that would be a huge issue, whereas Dokkan is not really in the same sort of space. And like you said, I've seen a lot of people posting screenshots, like a lot of people have finally been able to beat like the punching bag event and things like that. Now it does bring into question, I know we've seen a lot of people, it's not like an issue for the game in itself, I guess, but in terms of the community, I've seen a lot of people are a bit bummed out now for things like, you know, the in-game leaderboards and, you know, beating events with challenging teams and things like that is now, you know, screenshots don't really cut it anymore. Is that something that, you know, you guys can see? I know for most of us in here, I imagine we've beaten like all of the events in the game already anyway, so it's not really a huge issue. But is this something that people should be concerned about, or are people just complaining over nothing really? What do you guys think?
Again, I mean, for specific challenge runs, I guess I could see that perspective, but think about it this way, right? For somebody like me, who is their target player base, you know, making their revenue, if every single character that came out was the exact same power level, they all did the same exact thing, and they were all the same characters functionally, the only thing separating them was their animations and like what the character was, would I still summon? The answer is yes. I would still summon for every single character that comes out because it's a collection game. So it doesn't really matter what they do. The character could literally do 0, and I would still summon for them. And it's a collection game, and that's what they market the game towards us as. So it doesn't matter what the character does. Like, I'm just going to summon anyway. So
he's telling the truth, guys. He summoned for Tech Piccolo. He's telling the truth.
It doesn't matter what they do, right? And then the reverse also goes the same way too. A character could be the best character in the game, and if they're not cool and I don't like the character, then I'm not going to summon. Like Videl, I didn't care at all about Videl. She was insane, but I didn't care. I summoned for 1 copy and then I stopped. So yeah.
Truth, what do you think? Because obviously, you know, you and I, we've been known to do some challenge runs in our time. What do you think about this this new perspective?
I mean, it doesn't. I don't feel like those are like invalidated at all or anything like that, because it's like you're still doing it, right? Like it's like, I no itemed it with the glitch that made me have infinite stats, right? Like it's still like, I don't know how do it's not like the real game that you're doing that with, right? It's not an issue. I don't think people would get banned or anything like that. Like that's what's, you know, it turns into like people who are not using it versus people who are using it, where it's like, oh, the ban wave's going to be funny. Oh, I think there's going to be a ban wave. I don't like. It just turns into this huge like chaos. But it's like Dokkan, they've never really banned like any of this stuff, right? Like mods, bots. They've pretty much let it all run rampant. So I don't foresee bans coming at all. One thing though is that I see people say like, oh, well, we've all done it now, so they can't ban people. But it's like if they did do a ban wave, that's what, less than 1% of the player base is community. Like it's not like they could ban everyone that did the glitch, and it's probably not going to hurt their bottom line at all, right? I don't think so.
Yeah, because I suppose the people who are pouring in the most money are probably the people that can beat the events without having to use the glitch anyway, so they haven't done it. Because I mean, I've seen a bunch of screenshots, obviously seeing units getting crazy high attack stats and things like that. And like for me personally, I mean, that's all the experience I need. I've seen the screenshots of what it does. I don't need to do it, so I haven't even attempted it. I haven't even actually looked at the step-by-step process of how to do it, because it's not something that I feel the need to do. And I saw somebody in the chat, people in the chat saying that no item runs are pointless now. But I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, going all the way back to when, you know, the whole no item run Super Battle Rivalry thing started, is the whole point was you had to have it on video. So if you've got a video of you doing it legit, then it's still a good challenge run. And I always enjoy seeing videos, regardless of who they're from, whether they're Super Battle Road or not, of people doing challenging runs with interesting teams or, you know, different events and stuff. So those sort of things I don't think are invalidated at all. You know, it's not really a huge deal at the end of the day. So Minato, is there anything else you want to add? What do you think about potential bans, anything like that? What's your thoughts on the state of the game at the moment thanks to this glitch? Is it really a big deal, or are you not too fussed either?
I mean, I agree. Even then, people are going to get bored of this, and then it's going to be like not really fun to like, you know, do challenge or anything like that with this glitch. So I guarantee you, like in a week, people are just going to be like, about it. Even if it doesn't get fixed, I doubt, like, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who want to be like, oh, I want to be legitimate, stuff like that. So I don't necessarily find it to be that big of an issue. And I do feel like it's kind of being overblown. I don't think anyone's going to get banned for this. This is like it's not like, you know, like you're modifying the game or using a modified APK of the game, stuff like that. I think it'll all be fine in the end.
Yeah, it's literally a non-factor.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the entire spectrum of different responses, even to the point where people are scared that this means the game is going to die now or something, which, yeah, definitely seems very, very, very unlikely. Because like you said, I think the people who are actually supporting the game, at least financially, are the ones who probably couldn't care less about even trying the glitch, let alone using it to beat a bunch of content. But at the end of the day, you know, newer players using it to beat events that they're potentially not going to be able to beat for a long time, especially if you're free to play. Hey, whatever, it's your game. Who knows? If they do something in the future that affects you negatively because you did it, you should kind of go into these kind of things knowing that there is at least the potential for some risk. But yeah, there you go. Like I said, being a PvE game, there is probably not a huge amount of issue, really. So unless anybody else has any closing thoughts on the glitch, then we will move on to the question section. So if you guys have any additional comments, anybody?
You mean there's no other topics to discuss in this plentiful time of Dokkan?
Well, yeah, there you go. See, what a great time to do a special episode where we reminisce and answer a bunch of questions from the community. It's almost as if... No, it couldn't be that. The games are in a great place. Neither version of the game is dead right now. Everything is fantastic.
Well, you see, Ningen, they're preparing.
Exactly, it's the calm before the storm.
Yeah, version Z, man. It's coming. It's coming, and it's It's going to change the landscape of the game.
Well, we got version Z announcement is upcoming. Heroes, based on the dates of last year, we could see an announcement for a Dokkan Now about Heroes any day now. Part 2 stuff for both versions. So there's definitely a lot of stuff coming on the horizon. If nothing else, I guess at least this glitch stuff has had the community excited for something to talk about for the last day or so. So there is that at least. But anyway,
Maybe that's...
go on.
I want to say maybe that's another reason why it's getting overblown. There's literally nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, true. Okay, so we will go ahead and move into the questions section here. We took in a bunch of questions from you guys over on our Twitter, so make sure you are following us over there if you missed it, because we often tweet things out there, not only to do with the podcast, but things like our forms for the fan-made card series and everything like that. So make sure you guys are following us over there so you can stay up to date with everything that we tweet out, because a lot of the stuff can involve you guys being able to feature in the content. So make sure you are following us over there. So we're going to start going through some of these here. First of all, we had a couple of comments like this, but I wanted to highlight this one because it was the first one I saw that came up. This was a tweet that came to us from Raudo, which says, Dokkan started for me as a free-to-play experience due to a friend who introduced me to it. Didn't understand the science behind it and all the stuff I know now. Thanks to people I do know now, thanks to people in 5.9 gaming scene such as Goresh, DaTruthDT, and the others, 5+ years later, and I still love it. So even though this isn't a question, we definitely appreciate it. A lot of you guys did express a similar sort of sentiment, so obviously we do appreciate that very much. The podcast has always been something that I've really enjoyed doing, because I know a lot of you out there probably are in similar situations where in terms of IRL friends, I only have like 1 or 2 that actually play Dokkan. So the podcast has always been super enjoyable for me because it's a chance to actually sit down and chat with other people who love the game about everything that's been going on in the game. So hopefully you guys enjoy it too, but it's something that I have always very much enjoyed. So jumping into the first actual question, and we'll go to each of the members on the panel with this one. This comes to us from Joe Smith, and his question is, why did each of you start your YouTube channel? So, Truth, let's go ahead and start off with you.
One of my favorite games of all time is called Final Fantasy Tactics, which is a pretty easy game once you understand the ins and outs. Because the devs sort of like gimped the enemy. It just doesn't give them a chance to sort of spread their wings and do what they're capable of. But the AI in the game is ridiculously like good and clever, right? And can really like crush you, but it's not given the tools to do so. So a hard mod was basically created of that game, and it was so tough that there weren't really videos of it at the time. And I was like, oh, I want to make videos on it since no one else is. And then that kind of led me here.
Oh wow, so there you go. You didn't even start off as a Dokkan creator. So I guess just to piggyback off of that, so if you started off doing the Final Fantasy stuff, what was the, just very briefly, the sort of roadmap of what you did before you then got to Dokkan?
Just a lot of like OG game playthroughs of like Final Fantasy stuff, Resident Evil, a lot of like those type of games I love.
Was it, you did Parasite Eve one as well, right?
I did, yeah. I did a Parasite Eve, yep.
Nice.
That was a little closer to Dokkan's release, though.
Well, there you go. And so, Goresh, why did you decide to start your YouTube channel?
So I used to upload, I guess just like literally just raw gameplay from Dokkan, just to like show off teams to people. And it wasn't meant for like public viewing. It was just meant for like people that I was like sending the link to, because obviously no one was going to watch a video from a channel that had no subs and like no videos at all. And then they released, I think it was the LR STR Vegito Blue, the free one on global first. And I uploaded that video, and it blew up. A lot of Japanese people watched it. And I was like, okay, I might as well upload more. And then I just started uploading more, and people started watching more. And then I started uploading Legends videos, and a lot of people watched. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll keep uploading. And then I kept uploading, and now here I am.
Because I remember you were already very known for posting like the translations and things like that as well, weren't you, for the new units and everything? So yeah, it was definitely very cool to see. And then Minato, as one of the newer members of the team. Why did you decide to start your channel?
So I used to back then when Naruto Storm 4 and Storm 3, I was a big Naruto fan. I still am, and I used to play the Storm games all the time. So I used to upload just random clips of matches I did playing Storm 4 for some time, and over time I got more and more into Dokkan, and then I started making Dokkan content just for fun, just because why not, and I'm just kind of here now, honestly. I had a lot of fun doing both of those games for sure.
Oh, nice. So yeah, I only started with Dokkan as well. Mine was essentially, I can't remember, I hadn't been playing the game a huge amount of time, but I started mine around the time that the 120 leaders were coming out, and it was essentially because there were a few of them that I didn't pull, and so back then in that mono like team meta, I was having to come up with ideas for how to run those teams with a different lead using another unit that exists in the game that can function within that same sort of team build, and yeah, I just started really getting into watching Dokkan content. I hadn't really seen any videos like that at the time, so the first set of videos that I decided to make were guides on how to run the mono teams if you hadn't pulled the 120 leaders, and then it kind of just grew from there. So yeah, definitely has been an interesting journey, and yeah, it's very interesting to hear the starts of all of your guys as well.
Yeah, and then what for me, one other thing just to mention is before I started really uploading like normally scheduled videos, I guess the one person that really pushed me to start uploading a lot was DaTruthDT, because he actually contacted me a long time ago. This was, it was definitely over 2 years ago, I think, to start doing translations for Buchigiri, because obviously I was the known translator for the Dokkan stuff. So he DM'd me. He was like, "Hey, like, do you think you could like, like, I'll pay you to like do these translations or whatever?" And I was like, "I'll just do them." So I just did them. I still in my pinned thing on Twitter. You could look at the entire game I translated. But yeah, we started just becoming friends and started talking. And then he's like, "Yeah, you should like start doing videos." And he really showed me like how to do everything. So
oh wow,
a lot of the credit goes to him.
Hey, that's awesome. Yeah, shout out to D3. Definitely a nice guy. He was one of the first other like big creators that I watched before I started my channel that actually followed me back and did actually give me some advice early on as well. So shout out to him. What a great guy. I believe he is in fact a special guest on tomorrow's Legends podcast. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. So shout out to D3. So moving on to the next question. This will be interesting considering where some of the people on the panel are now. It'll be interesting to see where that journey started. So this question comes for us from Noah de Blower, and he says, when did you make your first purchase in Dokkan? So Goresh, do you remember this, or was it day one? Like when did this happen for you?
No, it wasn't day one, because I started playing like during the first year anniversary on Global. And that was with Goji. I didn't really understand how the game worked because I didn't even really watch videos on the game at all until like I was a little bit into it already.
Yep.
I didn't know what re-rolling was. I didn't know like the like what gacha games just were at all, pretty much, because it was still pretty young in the life cycle of gacha games. It was a pretty early gacha game actually, Dokkan, I think. So I actually ended up pulling Gogeta, which was pretty rare to do that, like just on a free-to-play account at the time. And I was like, okay, I wasn't really that excited. I was like, okay, cool, I got Gogeta, like, whatever. Like, a normal player who knows the game obviously knows how ridiculous that was back then to pull Gogeta without spending money. But the next banner, I think the next Dokkan Fest that came out after Gogeta on Global was the Int Ultimate Gohan, which brought back physical full power Frieza for the first time, and I had to get him, so that's when I started spending.
I see. Minato, when did you first make your first purchase in Dokkan?
I was in high school and I got like a little allowance, so I was like, okay, cool. And then I was having fun with Dokkan, so I was like, okay, I'll just buy like a stone packet too. And that's pretty much it. And it's just been like that from there.
I see. So just started off with like a small purchase here and there pretty early on then to top up your stone count, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. And then it escalated eventually, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah, I had a similar sort of thing where I think I might have bought like the really cheap pack maybe once or twice, but I got super lucky when I started the game. So I started playing properly when the AGL Super Vegito and Physical Legendary Super Saiyan Broly banner came out. And then I think the next one after them was Tech Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Just like Goresh was saying, I'd never played a gacha game before. I didn't really understand like properly how they worked. I didn't really understand anything about like the summon rates or anything. And those units I pulled within like the first 2 or 3 multis, obviously not realizing how lucky that actually was. And then it was when STR Omega came out. It was the first time I then had spent all the stones that I had at the time and didn't actually pull the unit. And so then it was a case of, oh, well, now what do I do? So well, I guess I'll have to buy some more. So, and then
I
started
actually think that's a big, like, I don't want to say issue, but like something that's pretty common with new players is they started playing the game and they don't understand like how a gacha game works, right? Because like the whole concept of you can pull forever and not get a unit is such a weird concept, because I played Dragon Ball Heroes before I started playing Dokkan, and the way that game works is there's a set order of the cards that you can get from the machine. So after a certain amount of tries, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a card that you want. Whereas with Dokkan, it's just 100% random, right?
Yeah, and so Truth. I was going to say probably, but let's be fair. The biggest whale in the game, probably, well, I don't know, maybe there's some bigger JP ones, but who knows? At least out of the ones we know. So when did you first make your purchase on Dokkan? Was it day one for you, or were you free to play for a little while?
So my first account, I started playing about a week before Super Vegito came out on Global Dokkan.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, I could grind through a lot of the story. I'll save all my currency and I'll be able to get Vegito. And I used it all. I didn't get him. And then I got a couple of packs. And then I was like, wait a minute. I'll just re-roll for him. So I actually bought a little on an account I threw away 10 minutes later.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then I believe, if I remember rightly from the stuff you said, so you switched to JP. It was the release of the LR Black and Zamasu, is that right?
Yes, that was a good 8 months later or something.
And so I'm guessing once you switched to JP, you just bought a whole bunch of stones to start out with, since you wanted them, the LR?
No, I did, I think, buy a little bit for Super Saiyan 3 Broly. I think just what I did for a while is I would just sort of get sale packs, right? But then, I mean, it's, how do I word it? At a certain point with YouTube, it was, oh, I am making a lot more than I could spend here, so we could just do whatever, I guess, sort of word it in a way like that.
Yeah, no, I like
yeah, I could just go crazy. It doesn't matter. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was very much for a long time a sales pack only boy, but like you said, once you start to see a little bit of growth, I can every now and then, if it's a unit I really want, I'll buy a few full price packs. But yeah, it's nice to be able to do so. All right, so moving on to the next question that comes to us from Veg, from the profile picture. I'm sure it's short for Vegito, but this is the one for the upcoming Heroes hype. It says, if you guys could choose one character that was guaranteed to release in the new Heroes collab, who would it be? So Minato, we'll start with you this time. If you could pick one character to be on the Heroes banner, who would you pick?
I would want Hearts, and hopefully with an active skill. That's really something I really want. I like Hearts, and I like Dio, and his voice actor is Dio, so why not?
You think Hearts has a good voice actor, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? That's surprising. But I actually like Heart's design too. I think he looks pretty cool. So yeah, I'd really want Hearts in the game for sure. It's something, because we know we're gonna get Vegetos, Gogetas, all that kind of stuff. So I'd rather pick a character that would have lesser of a chance to make it in, if that makes sense, but still a character I really want.
Truth, what about you? If you could pick one out of all of the possible options, who would you pick?
So this is most likely?
No. This is literally if you could pick one that would be on the new banner. So any Heroes character you like, your favorite one, whichever one you think would make a cool unit, up to you. But if you could pick one, who would it be?
Yeah, it's tough because I really want them to do some of the Super Saiyan 3 Vegito and Gogeta and stuff like that. But it's Evolution Blue Gogeta. I just think looks so cool. I want him, man. He looks cool.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. And Goresh, who would you pick?
I mean, they already announced it. Xenopan.
Yes,
True,
based
true.
Goresh. Let's go.
I mean, for the meme, it's got to be like Golden Metal Cooler, which I would be very happy to. Very
Wait,
happy if they
meme?
did
What?
that.
That's not a meme. That's just real.
Would
though.
you pick him though? If you got to actually decide who one of the
If I
units
got
was
to
gonna
actually
be?
pick, I would choose the double Goku. I think.
The Super Saiyan Blue and Super Saiyan 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very cool. I think, memes aside, like I'm not gonna say somebody like Masked Super 17, even though obviously I would love to see that. But if I could pick
Do
anyone,
we act? Wait. That would be really good for. Like,
I know it would.
androids
It
and
would
shit.
be
Like,
really
that would
good.
Be good. Yeah.
If I had to pick, he would be a close one. But I think for me, because of the hype of the character and the teams that he would be on in the game and things like that, I definitely would pick the Timebreaker Goku Black. Obviously, if I got to pick completely, it would be a Rose one that transforms into Super Saiyan 3 Rose. I think that would be very cool because a lot of those teams that he would be on definitely could use the help, and he just looks cool. I mean, if nobody noticed, I really like the Timebreaker mask thing, and I love the fact that all the characters that get, not only do they get the mask, they get like a full like costume redesign. They're always looking super cool, so definitely would be the Timebreaker Goku Black for me. So next up, we have a question that comes to us from Philip Rodriguez, and this is more of a just sort of Dragon Ball in general question for the panelists here. So he says, my uncle introduced me to Dragon Ball Z through bootleg VHS movies he got in New York around 96 and 97, which put me at around 10 years old. My life was forever changed. When did Dragon Ball get its hooks into each of you? So Goresh, we'll start off with you.
Okay. So I was growing up, and obviously the show used to air on Cartoon Network, right? This was late 90s, like early 2000s-ish. And my mom always used to give me an option. I get to watch the show or eat dinner, and I would always skip dinner to watch the show. And that's when I started like falling in love with the show.
Oh, wow, nice. Minato, what about you?
Well, the first Dragon Ball media I ever watched was Evolution.
Oh, no, get out.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Imagine that.
Why are you guys laughing? It's really good. They really nailed the characters, man.
And then I just went to go watch more of Dragon Ball that was airing on TV, and I was like, well, that's completely different.
Man,
And I just
imagine.
kind of watch it from there, but yeah, that's my proudest thing.
I can't.
That's for sure.
I'm trying to imagine the mindset of watching Dragon Ball Evolution and then going, yeah, I need to see more of that. Let me check out this series.
Well, I mean, I just saw it airing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna check it out. I was like a younger kid, so it's not like I really looked like deep into the movie, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so terrible, you know.
It's one of those things. I mean, obviously, like the CG is not very good, and you could say what you want about the acting and stuff. But I wonder, because for most of us here, we wouldn't have that possibility. But I mean, I wonder what it would have been like to see that movie, knowing literally nothing about Dragon Ball, if it was still as horrendous. But there you go. So, Truth, what about you? When did you first get into Dragon Ball Z?
Okay, so I was watching Cartoon Network. This was before Toonami, actually.
Oh.
And I remember, I think it was either a promo for The World's Strongest or Dead Zone. I think it was The World's Strongest. It was like, oh, we're gonna show this on Friday night, and I think that was the first I watched, was The World's Strongest. Poor Dr. Willow still hasn't made it into Dokkan.
He's in Dokkan. He's in the Dead Frieza army card art.
Yeah, and, we have Possessed Piccolo and Dr. Cochin in the story as well. The quest mode, which they update frequently. But yeah, it's a long time ago.
Nice. Yeah, it was similar for me.
Pre-Toonami days.
Over here, I think it was Toonami, because obviously Cartoon Network, they did advertise it differently in the UK. But yeah, it started airing in the afternoons. I think it was around like 5:30, so it was after school. I think I was probably 14, 15, 16, somewhere around then when it started showing on Cartoon Network in the UK. And I've talked about this previously, but anime did this a lot. on channels in the UK. I know the Pokemon series did it as well, where for whatever reason they would only show so many episodes. Like it would get up to a certain point in the Saiyan saga, and then the next day it would just be the first episode, and it would start again. And then after they did that like 2 or 3 times, then they would actually have the next lot of episodes. So over the course of watching it every afternoon after school, I think it took me somewhere around like a good couple of years to actually see every single episode all the way up to the end of the Boo saga. So, yeah,
you couldn't just go online and watch stuff.
Yeah, true. Back then. That was back in the day. This is a very random thought, but back in the day, the early days of the internet, that was when that horrible cursed like image of Super Saiyan 5 Goku first appeared, and people didn't know whether it was real or not because
No, that's raw with the hair. Like it's
That's
way
awful.
bigger than him. Yeah, it's so sick. Awful.
oh, I hate it.
It's raw. Go
You
swag.
do not used to watch the videos where it's like Super Saiyan 1 to 10, and it's like, oh,
Actually, no, the one thing I do remember from back then in the early days of YouTube, there was a Gohan AMV set to 3 Doors Down by Kryptonite, and it was all footage of Gohan from the BoJack movie, and it was amazing. And I didn't get to see the BoJack movie for I don't even know how long, because they didn't show those on Toonami in the UK for I don't even know how long till they first showed any of those. So
The magic of that time period was you didn't know what was real and what wasn't real. Because I remember being on like a toy website and like looking through like a bunch of like figures. This is like like again like early like 2001 something like that. This is like the early days of the internet, like with AOL dial-up and stuff like that.
yep.
But they had like they had websites for toys, and I remember seeing a lot of GT figures, and I didn't know what GT was. I was like, why? Like, with Super Saiyan 3 Kid Goku? Like, what is this? Like, this isn't real. Like, this is a fake like character. Like people, you couldn't just like look up stuff. Like, it was just like you could put on a forum like anything, and people would believe you pretty much, right?
I remember like a kid came to school and it was like the roster for like GT Final Bout or something like that. And it was just like, what is this? Right? Like what? Like you couldn't even comprehend it.
Oh, good times.
Because that was like, like Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So I was like, what is going on? Like it was like Saiyan Saga that I was watching. Like what is this?
A sign of things to come. Yeah, that was it was a different time back then. So yeah, we've got that was a nice wholesome walk down memory lane, but now we've got a bit more of a spicy one. I put this one in because I thought it would be it could be a little bit interesting. So this question comes to us from Johnny Torres, and he says, how do you guys personally feel about the Dokkan community? Do you guys enjoy the hot takes, like Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku stuff, or does it annoy you after a while? Also, Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Gogeta for Heroes, yes. But so Truth, let's throw this question over to you, because I know you have a very loving relationship with the Dokkan community in the whole. So
I actually
what are your
I
thoughts?
enjoy it. Like the more chaos, the more I like. That's why like listen, I'm pretty confident that there's gonna be no bans or anything like that. But there's a side of me that would be real interested to see what a ban wave would look like, man. I'm just saying,
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
It would be, I know Mr. Rat Resh is over there with a smirk. I can hear that damn smirk.
I don't think they would do that. I mean, that would kind of be dirty if they did, I think. It's not like we're duping stones, right? Then I would understand, but this is like whatever.
So Goresh, what about you? What do you think? How do you feel about the Dokkan community as a whole?
Well, I can't really say anything bad, otherwise we're
out here committing career suicide, but
yeah, I love them, dude. They're the best community.
Any comments about, I don't know, things like the hot takes? Do you like seeing them? What do you think about those?
I like seeing hot takes, but I like seeing hot takes that aren't there just to get like interactions, right? Like when you put like, N Yamcha is better than like AGLUI Goku, then it's like, all right, well, this is just for clicks, right?
Yeah.
If it's something that actually makes sense and it's apparent that you put thought into what you're saying, then I kind of like them, because it makes people think about things from a different perspective. But if it's something that's just like, let me see how many likes I could get on this, like, then that's stupid.
Yeah, no, I agree. Minato, what about you? What do you think?
Well, about what you're saying there, the thing that sucks is that 90% of them is basically for that reason. So that's why I personally think the greater than symbol is the worst thing to happen to the community. But I like seeing the chaos as well. I actually said something like, what if like they do ban people who use this glitch and then it just the entire timeline disappears like the Uchiha massacre or something, dude. I like the community, honestly. It's a lot of fun interacting and talking with all the other people there. Sometimes, again, things can get a little not too favorable, but, it's all good in the end. It's all fun. I feel like most of the people in the community are pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
It's been pretty interesting, I could say that for sure.
Yep. I think that it's like any community. There's always like a vocal minority of people that will be negative or be mean or any sort of things like that, farming for clout with their weird greater than takes. But we've seen a lot of examples, I think, in the past of the community coming together and doing some pretty great stuff, especially recently. So I think overall, it's definitely fun. It's fun to be in. I definitely agree with Goresh. I like to see discussions about units that are well thought out and not just like, clearly just trying to rile people up. But yeah, I think for the most part, we've got a pretty decent community. But I mean, that meme will still live forever. Stop posting your summons under people's tweets that have got nothing to do with the game. But I'm going to come out and say that again. But other than that, I think I think we're doing pretty well. So that was, I thought I'd throw that one in there. But yeah, I think the community is in a pretty decent place for the most part. So next up, we have a question that comes to us from Ash, who says, what would be a dream unit for you in Dokkan? So, for example, you would be happy with the game shutting down for good if this was the final unit that they released. So, Truth, what do you think? What would your dream unit in Dokkan be?
Well, I mean, no talk of the game shutting down, please. I can't take that.
I know, right? My heart.
Dream unit. I don't like. There's not like a unit where it's like I must have that, right? Like one of the ones I've been talking about for a while is Transforming Trunks, who we just got, right? Like I don't know. That's tough. You got to give it to someone else, man. I don't know.
Minato, what about you? You got one?
It's hard. There's so many options I can think of. I mean, I would say. Oh, you thought it?
Go on,
Ultra
Truth.
Ego Vegeta. Ultra Ego Vegeta.
Ultra Ego Vegeta. Ooh,
that means we're going into the manga territory.
Yeah.
That would
I would like.
Oh, spoilers, Toon. I'm sorry, man. Oh, no.
All right, Ultra Ego Vegeta. I mean, that's if we do ever get around to that kind of stuff, that definitely would be hype. So,
I would like Hakai Goku. From the Master Blue form, I think that would be pretty cool. Or like, the manga Emergence Masu, where it's like 1 billion clones. Stuff like that. Like manga stuff is a really good choice, I feel like.
Wait, I see what you're doing here. I remember all this talk in the previous episode about your wanting to see the shirtless Goku. You just want to see shirtless buff Zamasu, don't you, from the manga?
I mean, another thing we could see is let's I got my shirtless Goku, so what else would I need? Like
And what about you, Goresh? Do you have a unit in mind that would be a dream unit for you to come to the game?
Yeah, I want a melee super nullification first form Frieza.
Ooh. With the animation, well, I suppose they can't really go that in depth, but I'm assuming you're talking about the nail, the chop to the neck scene. Yep. Yeah, no,
like
that makes sense.
They could do the same thing like Gogeta, where Frieza could maybe just kind of like move his
head
and
tilts
then,
his
like,
head
that,
to
like,
the side.
flash.
Yeah,
Yeah, the same thing. Like I feel like that could definitely work.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that or a revival final form when he gets hit with a spirit bomb and then goes onto the rock. Like that, I think that's like an ideal revive animation. That's such an iconic scene.
Yeah, that would be super cool. For me, I've mentioned it before in videos and on previous episodes. I guess it would technically only be a heroes card, but I really want to see a Bardock that has a transformation where he puts on the broken Timebreaker mask and becomes Super Saiyan 3 Marseillan. It was from one of the quite old, I think, heroes trailers, because it was him fighting against the Xeno King Vegeta, and I used to use that in my old channel intro because it's just really cool. Puts on the broken mask and goes Super Saiyan 3. I think that'd be an awesome transformation animation. So yeah, that's something that I would love to see personally. Maybe, I mean, that's something that could potentially be a thing in Heroes. So maybe one day, but that would be the one for me. So. Okay, so next up we have an interesting one here from Stephen Enwood. So obviously with version Z, there's an announcement on the horizon. We don't know exactly how much we're going to find out. But he says it could be very healthy if version Z totally changes the game. But do you think this may hurt Dokkan's future? A lot of people hate change. And also, what would you like to see with the updates? I mean, we'll focus more on that. Do you think if version Z really is a huge change to the game, do you think that could potentially put people off of the game? What do you think? So, Goresh, we'll start with you.
I mean, it really depends on what they do, but I think Dokkan is a game that has survived as long as it has, and not only just survived, but thrived as long as it has because of its simplicity and because of how easy it is to play and how accessible it is. So I don't think version Z is going to like completely change the way the game is played or anything like that. I think it's just going to make it easier, like they talked about. I think it was, what is it? I forget when they talked about like the specific details about it, but they said it was mostly to make the gameplay experience a lot easier and a lot more accessible to newer players, right?
Yeah. So
I think it's just there to just enhance how easy it is to play, which I think is good because they recognize that that's the selling point of the game. So I don't think it's going to hinder the game at all, just assuming that they're going to go down that path. The one way it could backfire is if they try and like drastically change the way the game is played, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Truth, what do you think?
I think the worst thing would be if they never try and do anything at all, right? So like if it's a major change, I feel like it's good that they're attempting something like that anyway, because like there's always as long as they're willing to like do stuff and try stuff, like we could get to a point where they're making really good things, right? So like I don't think that there's a high chance of like, you know, huge backlash or something just because the game changed, because I feel like the entire the game is just very old compared to newer gachas, right? Like they could just make it shinier, flashier a little bit, right? And I feel like it would be better.
My biggest concern, if they do decide to do that and like bring some like massive changes to like the gameplay of whatever, if they do that, my only concern is they have a bad history of, you know, creating these new modes, making these changes, and then never like fixing issues. Like Chain Battle is the biggest example of this. They released Chain Battle, and we've given them a year plus of feedback on why we think the mode is not that great and ways to improve it, and they've done nothing. So my only concern is if they do make these changes and make the game a lot different, will they be willing to go back and update things that are bad about it? And they have a bad track record of doing that, so I don't know.
And then Minato, any additional thoughts on this one?
I feel like, you know, I don't think it would necessarily, like, a big change would hurt the game necessarily. It depends on how they implement it, and like Goresh said, the only issue is that if they don't implement it correctly the first time, it's going to be very unlikely to see them make updates or changes to it, which is unfortunate. So hopefully it does. I would personally want to see, like, you know, say sprite updates is something I'd want to see, and then like better file compression for the game. Stuff like that I feel like would be very good. Even if it's not just total gameplay change, but like how the game looks, like Truth was saying, I feel like would be very interesting.
Yeah, something I've been asking for a long time that I think gets overlooked is normal attack animations.
Yes.
And like Dokkan attack animations, like all those like basic attack animations are so bad. it's like a 2005 like Flash game. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I think a big one, I know it's one of the things that gets brought up the most outside of probably the friend system, is definitely the sprite updates, especially because we're seeing a lot more super attacks now where you see the enemy sprites more clearly or more zoomed in. So I think that's definitely something that a lot of people want to see. In terms of changes that could potentially hurt the game, I don't think there's... The only thing I could foresee that could be really bad is if they do try to implement a PvP system and they make it like a really big deal, but they do it really badly. I personally can't think of a way that you could do PvP in Dokkan and do it well. So I feel like that's something that would potentially massively put people off, but at the same time, it's still just a mode that you technically wouldn't have to play if you didn't want to. So I don't know if there's anything they could do to massively put people off, but obviously this is something that we are going to have to wait and see, and hopefully we are going to find out our first little bit of information very soon with the announcement that is coming up. So we are moving on to the final question here for today. I thought this would be a nice little one to end off. Nice little warm fuzzy one here that comes to us from Subarashi Rose, and he says, what are your fondest memories playing Dokkan? Could be some summons, gameplay, announcements, etc. So Minato, let me throw this one to you first.
I would say one of my more fonder moments of Dokkan is when Physical Vegeta Blue and AGL Rose came out. It was pretty crazy. I felt like they weren't like too far away from coming out in the anime. Wasn't it like I believe it was like a week after, like the same day that the Vegeta Blue episode came out, that we saw the announcement for the Dokkan Fest or something like that. It was very close and it was insane. I remember getting them off a single summon and AGL Super Vegeta as well. I was ecstatic. It was such a great time for me back then. I loved like the AGL Rose and Physical Vegeta Blue mono teams right there. They were very fun. Being able to use all the the god units, as we called them back in the day. It was just one of my more fun moments of Dokkan, really. I'm not even sure if anything could even top that currently. Just was great.
Yeah, that was super hype. I remember being able to run like the actual, I used to say rainbow teams, I guess, even though they weren't rainbow units, but yeah, using all the different colored units. That Rose team was a super fun team when that first came out. So Goresh, what about you? What is, if you had to pick one, your fondest memory from your Dokkan lifetime?
So it's hard to pinpoint like some like exact moments that I like the best, but just in general, like we've had some pretty big, like honestly, it's whenever there's something that's unexpected or not announced in advance that comes out, like one that hits me specifically is when on JP the I think it was the STR Goku Black and Tech Vegeta Blue were announced in game, because we didn't have any like advanced warning or anything about who was coming out, and we got those Dokkan teasers in the news. People were like, wow, like they're doing this again, like that's insane. And like it was just like people didn't know what to expect, and those things all of a sudden just popped up in the news, and it was crazy. And then my second one would probably be whenever new Super Battle Road stages come out, or new difficulty of Super Battle Road stages come out. Because I remember when the first ever type Super Battle Road stages came out, and people jumped in. I was watching like a million videos of people trying the event, and they were jumping in for the first time ever. And we're like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to go in with my team. I'm going to like, not use an item. And then they get like one shot and they're like, whoa, what is this event? It was just funny to see like everyone's reactions to it. And I remember that being like a really fun time to play the game.
Yeah, 100%. I remember watching streams and people would be streaming for like 2 or 3 hours to beat like one stage, like to get like Super STR or something like that done. And it was it was crazy to see what it was like when it first came out. And so, Truth, what's your one here for this one?
Favorite Dokkan moment?
I mean, it could just be your fondest memory. It could be from a summon, could be something in, something you did in the game or something that came to the game. Anything really, I guess.
5-year anniversary was really hype. 3-year anniversary was really hype. UI Goku being tweeted like 15 minutes after the episode ended for us was pretty hype.
Yeah. Things
like that. Like seeing like Gogeta Blues animations tweeted was incredible, right? Stuff like that.
I think in terms of character releases, I still to this day don't think anything has ever topped the AGL Rose and Physical Vegeta Blue announcement in the news, because that was another instance of like the episode came out and then like 2 days later we had like the announcements in the game for the units, right? Like the art of like them both look like doing like having like a stare down in the I think that was the 100 million download celebration. Or something. I think it was either 100 or 150 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 100 because I remember that's when Global got Super Vegito. So I remember people were literally like going like mentally like insane when that happened. And we're like, it was ridiculous. I've never seen that level of hype with anything. That like the original Super Saiyan 4s, the 2nd year anniversary Super Saiyan 4s were also on that same level. It was crazy. That time of Dokkan was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the ones for me as well. Them coming to the game, being able to make that like the villain and heroes team where you were using the units like STR Gogeta, AGL Super Vegito, like using all of them on the same team. It was just a super fun time in the game.
I mean, like, think about it. We went from basically physical Vegeta Blue and Ninja Rose to Trunks and Zamasu, then to the Super Saiyan 4s. That was crazy, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty hype time. Yeah, that was a fun time in the game for sure. I mean, say what you want about the quality of Super in various arcs or whatever, but I feel like the game definitely benefited from a lot of like free hype by being able to do those things. Like we said, like announcing UI Goku like right after the episode first aired, and the community was like blowing up with how crazy that episode was when UI Goku first appeared, and then having him then being able to announce that like, oh yeah, he's coming to the game like straight afterwards. Stuff like that is I mean, obviously I want to see more anyway, but I think if we do ever finally get like the actual series come back, I think that's another thing that's just going to generate so much more hype for the game, because some of those moments were just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so there you go. I thought that would be a nice one to end it off on. That is going to be it for this particular episode 59, episode 59. Definitely was interesting to do something a little bit more different. Hopefully you guys appreciated the in-depth look into some of these things going into the past, not only of the podcast itself, but of some of our main panel of regular creators. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. We should be back to our regularly scheduled format programming for next week, because next week we should have not only the version Z announcement, we should know more about heroes, we potentially will know more about the part 2s of the celebrations for both versions. So there's going to be a ton of stuff going on next week, so make sure you guys are back here same time again next week. If you did join the podcast late, or if you're just coming in now even, the episode will be uploaded tomorrow on the actual YouTube channel on 59 Gaming Mobile, so make sure you check that out. And that is going to be it for us over here at episode 59. So I have been your host, the Masked Ningen. A big shout out to my guests, Truth, Goresh, and Minato. Shout out to Troco for manning the boards behind the scenes, as always. And shout out to all of you guys for coming out for the episode. So make sure you are following us across all of our social medias, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.